join us. We're focused on a Digital World Town Hall meeting. Today is December 10th, 2024. We're joined by a group of folks that actually join us for the Digital World Town Hall Council side of things as we do a report out. Now, the report out will consist of basically these types of following structures. So the first part will begin with an introduction and prayer. Then we'll have advancements over the last week, and then general Q&A and maybe advancements that are going on within the world over this last week. Again, we're the 10th of December 2024. We're joined by co-hosts Elle and Wally. We're grateful for them joining and helping. This is a private membership association. Some of the things we talked about may be forward-looking. And again, for those that want to recap, we believe that there are secret combinations that are taking over different parts of the ecosystem. When I say ecosystem, I'm talking about the world and how it relates to really controlling elements, especially when we talk about private systems and public systems. So behind the scenes, these private systems might be known as like the World Economic Forum and how they come together with different industries, maybe healthcare, maybe insurance, maybe automotive, maybe oil, maybe media, maybe technology. And we primarily focus with the Digital World and the Clear companies on technology and helping to combat the centralized, closed, proprietary combinations. And then that ties into other environments. So we'll talk a lot about that, but primarily around how decentralized systems can actually help humanity. So this may be a repetitive thing, but we think it's a very simple thing around how transparency and decentralized systems can actually provide a better future for individuals, specifically individuals. Then it relates to families and communities. We're trying to find the fine balance between governance and government. And one of the things we'll talk about today is pretty important because it's a culmination of a lot of things over the years that have basically come together around decentralized systems. Some people may say, I don't understand what decentralized systems are, and it's really simple. It's using technology in such a way where there's no central system that ties to identity and payments, and so a new financial system, if you will, new management systems, whether it's around land, whether it's around assets, whether it's around businesses, that all tie to these keys that tie to the individual and then have derived keys so that machine learning or artificial intelligence in the future can't actually come and take them over. A lot of people may say, we don't even need to worry about that, or it's not a big deal, but we've been talking about this for literally 15 plus years. And just now within the last 12 months is people starting to figure out artificial intelligence is real, it's here to stay, and it's very intelligent. One of the biggest things that I want to try and announce, or at least go through the process of announcing, is something that is called XDW. And so it's a digital exchange around the future, and it's an intelligent system. Go ahead.
Michael, I don't see the
thanks for that.
I don't see the screen.
Thanks for the heads up. It usually happens right about now. I'll jump back over and see if we can you see that now? Are you with me?
Yes, I see it now.
Okay, awesome. Thanks for the heads up. So basically, can you still see it?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, this is a digital exchange that is focused on really running autonomously, but allowing people to connect and share in such a way that has never been done before, especially when it looks at different exchanges. It will directly replace the systems around Coinbase or Kraken or Binance, where those systems are basically centrally based, but it will enable people to come together with a true value of funds. When I say true value of funds, I'm particularly talking about gold and silver that has a digital receipt that then can operate within this new digital exchange. When I say digital exchange, I'm talking about a front-end interface that's a web-end interface that actually allows for currencies, equities, and commodities to be able to be managed in a digital ecosystem, namely the digital world. So this digital exchange will operate based upon assets within the digital world. It will actually tie in and can tie in other assets in other parts of the ecosystem, namely Stellar assets and Ripple assets. So again, currencies, equity, and commodities that tie into these different realms. And the user will be able to do things such as send up in the top right here. So literally you can log into a web interface, you can actually send, you can receive, and you can exchange different assets, but it ties to a validation process that is off of the phone. If you want me to show you how it works, I'll actually log in and give you an example. So I'm actually going to log in. Let's use Hawaiian Life for this example. So we're going to log into one of the countries within the ecosystem. So this is the Hawaiian environment. So I'm going to log in, 5-factor verification. I just logged in. I can see a wallet. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to log. So this is one of the Hawaiian. I'm going to log into another one. In the Hawaiian ecosystem, I want to say it's this one. No, it's going to be the other one. This is a little different ecosystem. What's neat is how fast you can traverse and how the different jurisdictions will actually tie together, but allow the individual to actually manage. I'm going to see if this works here. No, it should have come up. Maybe I don't have assets with that environment. So I've done something wrong. I won't be able to show it to you. Dang it. It's really simple. I must have logged into with the wrong system. So basically what it'll do is you can click send, pop in an address, whether that comes out of your contacts or whether that comes off of a QR code scan or whether it comes off of an address. And then you can basically send it and it'll ask for a scan, just like I did when I logged in, to be able to send to the next recipient. Same thing with the receive, but you can actually request funds or assets. And think about it this way. When we're doing this, this is not like Zelle. This is not like Cash App. This is not like Venmo. These are assets that are cryptographically stored on the end user's environment with their own encryption keys and no one has access to them. When we talk about the exchange, it's the same type of thing, but it's actually one asset to another asset. So this is actually digital US dollars, which are actually backed and reserved by physical assets, which is a whole nother conversation. If you've been paying attention, you've seen these things over time. So this is a very big advancement. There's about I don't know how long the plan is. Let's see how long it is. So this is the plan that ties to it. It's 62 pages. So this is actually the details behind that, and I won't go through all of them here, but this plan will actually go through a process of raising funds and launching a business. As you know, we haven't marketed or done PR or anything like that, primarily because a lot of the things that we're doing, the legislation and systems weren't ready for it. We believe that they're absolutely ready for it now. So we will work through the process of driving awareness for this platform and adoption through actual normal processes of raising funds, which we historically have always shied away from. So this new system will actually tie to some of the systems that we've talked about before, where it may have an off-ramp and an on-ramp separate from the gold with the credit union, which we'll talk a little bit about. It'll actually have potential off-ramps with the normal Visa and MasterCard rails for those people that don't understand how to stay out of that system and why it's important to stay out of that system. There'll be services that will tie to it. There'll be assets that can be purchased, whether it's phones or cars or homes or credit lines. And so we're excited to basically launch this as a new product and something that we're focused on deeply in 2025. There's also been invites to speak at an event. This is actually in Arizona. So this is on December 19th through the 22nd. We also have one in Florida the week before this at Mar-a-Lago and the surrounding areas. There's also been talk this last week a lot about North America combining with Mexico and Canada and the hundreds of millions of dollars that are spent in other parts of the region. And if they're going to do that, blah, 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 I'll let other people talk about what Trump is saying or not. But there's been dialogue around that. As you know, we believe that these types of systems, so for instance, if you haven't been paying attention, there are two systems, one in Mexico, or I should say the Mexican environment that does identity, health, voting, finance, dispute, currency exchange, commodity, equity, currencies there, and then businesses. And the matching system in America that actually ties to this, so they can actually interface, is this American environment. Similar type features and functions, doesn't have all of the bells and whistles as the Mexican environment, but literally can integrate in based upon the login. So a user can actually log into the same environments. I'll give you some examples. So I'm actually within a Hawaiian jurisdiction, but able to log into an American environment and actually create different assets, etc. I think actually earlier today, if I'm not mistaken, actually I think that was Hawaiian. So these are assets, these are businesses. Yeah, so it was a different environment. There were businesses and assets that were created that were pretty interesting that were popped in earlier today. I won't go through them, but net is the ability to be able to bring these systems together from Mexico, United States of America, and Canada is very seamless when you're looking at systems like what we're talking about and contemplating here. There are different life apps within different jurisdictions that have different assets that tie to different infrastructure. And when I say infrastructure, I'm talking about the systems here. So you can see this is the Mexican peso that may also tie to the US digital dollar. Now, the US digital dollar is not the same thing as the US dollar or USD, which is created from a different organization, namely the banking industry, on loaning out and creating money versus the dollar. So the actual dollar sign, which is created by the Reserve Bank. They're totally different topics. Those are three separate different topics, but you can see how they can be selected and seen and then exchanged in different ways. So those are massive, massive advancements. What other things have we been able to get done this last week? There's a lot of advancements within the Ethiopian environment. I'm going to see if we've got anybody on from Ethiopia. I know we've got them on from New Zealand and Australia and Canada and the United States. There's nobody from Mexico and Ethiopia on today. So I actually had meetings earlier today from the folks down in Ethiopia that are actually tying to other parts of the region within Africa. I'll actually walk you through those other parts. So this is actually where we're already signed up within Ethiopia. And these are other regions that we hope to walk into within the next 12 months. But it just so happens that this environment right here, Nigeria, which I actually believe Nigeria has some of the most, Nigeria, Israel, Australia, New Zealand, Canada are some of the biggest guinea pigs when it talks about rolling out these centralized systems and control over humanity. And so when we look at Nigeria, they're one of the most advanced. I know that may sound weird, but we're actually working within the Ethiopian environment to create phones that will actually tie to Nigeria through funds in other regions. I won't be specific, but that's another big advancement that's happened this week. It's about 115 million people there, similar to what's down in Mexico, where there's 140 million people. And they're rolling out some different systems. They actually have some very advanced environments that they've been trying to work on this for a long time. And the Ethiopian phone currency funds is very mature. It's actually more mature than I've seen in other environments. You wouldn't think that, but currently we're working on the Ethiopian Life app, and they've actually already bought over 200,000 phones that they're rolling out every single month. They're not Clear phones, but they're going to be using ClearOS Mobile and ClearOS Server. So a lot of beautiful topics there within that environment. What else? What are other fun things that have been happening? I won't talk about this. The Tesla phone is actually ready for some testing and pre-launch elements. As far as a product goes, it can actually, well, it has to be purchased through the digital. Here, I'll pull up the site. It has to be purchased through the actual US digital dollar site. So the digital USD, which basically ties to the purchase of silver and gold, which we're very close to being able to launch. So a lot of this stuff coming together. It's the use case on how these new systems basically get adopted. Because a lot of people are like, I don't really care if I can send money in real time with no government and no bank and no fees. A lot of people don't think that that's a big value. But when they start understanding the privacy and identity, where their identity is private and the transaction is public, so it creates an honest environment within humanity, people are going to say, well, how can I actually use this and why should I care? And what we're looking forward to is the ability for people to actually use it in a massive, valuable way, again, around credit, phone, homes, and autos. So those are the particular archetypes that we're focused in on. When we look at the adoption within 2024, again, we're at December 10th, we look at the digital world as one of the smallest environments. And I think a lot of this has to do with, one, we're only focused on, we're not just pumping up our numbers based upon transactions. We're focused on real world adoption with real world systems, with people that actually, and cultures and communities and kingdoms and nations and countries that want to have this as a mainstream long-term solution. So with that being said, the digital world is actually number zero as far as adoption when you look at a lot of the other layer one chains that are out there. So Bitcoin in of itself, 166 million transactions, and compared to 18 million within the digital world for 2024. We look forward to seeing some shifts. What I would argue is this creates a massive opportunity for growth, not just because people perceive it as more valuable, but because it shows that the adoption is actually starting. So we've spent a lot of time over 15 years building the actual systems behind it. That being said, any questions, thoughts, feedback, things that you're seeing in the industry, concerns? Now is your time. I will stop talking. Anyone?
You have a question, Michael?
Yes, sir.
How does this run with regards to the quantum financial system? Does it run parallel or part of?
It runs on the same technology that the supposed quantum financial system will actually launch on. So whether you're talking about BRICS, whether you're talking about the QFS system, whether you're talking about other countries that are adopting it, those same cross-border platforms is actually the same core technology that the digital world was built on. That's one operating environment around a chain, what the world would call a layer one chain. But there's two other operating environments around the mobile phone or the access devices, and then the server side of it, and how that connects into decentralized identity. So for instance, I've worked shoulder to shoulder with some folks within the UN, and there's a lot of things that I question or don't believe in, but the net is these guys are using identity. Hi, Richard, perfect timing. They're using identity to basically pay the folks around the pension funds within the UN. So they're actually using the same type of quantum financial system you're referring to pay people's retirement every single month. And then they're tying it to bank accounts and cards similar to this, but they're doing it in such a way that it's about 3 generations old when you look at it on the technology side of things. And yeah, so I hope that answers your question. I forgot to give you time to pray, by the way, but does that answer your question?
Yes, thanks. Thanks, Michael.
Mm-hmm. Welcome, Richard. Any thoughts, comments? We just went through a bunch of stuff, Richard. You missed kind of the weekly report out, but it's good to have you.
Sorry, I've got a bad cold, so.
Welcome. Well, 'tis the season, huh?
Yeah.
So there's a lot that we went over. I'll go ahead and ask anybody else if they've got questions. If not, I'll do a quick summary for you. Other thoughts or comments? So Richard, we talked about the general elements of decentralized keys. We briefly touched on a new type of exchange that will be basically a type of utility for humanity. It's not a centralized exchange, it's a decentralized exchange, and we'll be raising funds to drive mass awareness and adoption of how people can actually use the system, but also how they can pull out of the fiat system and tie into real grounded money system based upon silver and gold. It's called the Digital Exchange, and it will use a simple system where you can send and receive and exchange different assets from the actual steward of the devices, so to speak. So direct to actual wallets that are custodial wallets from the individual. And then how that actually works, how the asset management side of it works. Think about the combination of Coinbase and one of the best fat wallets that goes on a PC. I won't mention the name, starts with an E, but basically combining those into one system within this digital exchange that can actually tie to how money can actually be utilized in the future. So that's one big announcement. The other announcements are how credit, phones, autos, and homes can actually be purchased within this environment. How Clearmint and Clear Bullion will actually be a service provider to that environment. We also have an event coming up in Arizona as well as Florida. So 19th through the 22nd is Arizona, and the 15th or the 14th through the 16th is Florida. And then we talked a little bit about North America, Canada, and the United States and Mexico, and then provided an update on Ethiopia and the advancements there. So that's basically things we went over. If we don't have a lot of thoughts or feedback, we'll convey the meeting or wrap it up soon. So thoughts or feedback, it's your time. Danielle sent a message and said that she would be late today. And maybe she won't even be able to get on because we'll just wrap up.
Well, it's especially relevant because of the taking over people's bank accounts and everything, shutting them down. It's just unbelievable what's happened.
We actually had another one of those today. So we've had, this is our fifth one today, or fifth one probably in the last 2 years. But we had one today. It was actually for Clear Energy that was actually shut down. I called them today and says, how can you do this? You know, you didn't call us, you didn't email us, you didn't do anything. And how do you justify this? You know, what are you doing with the funds that was there? And they're like, oh, so sorry, you can just create another account. It's like, no, you're missing the point. What about all the history in the account? What about how? So why would we open up another account with you when you don't even care to communicate with your customers and provide notice? You didn't even send anything out. I mean, we find out after it's already done. I don't understand why they're doing it, because you would think that they actually want people to join the banking system, unless it's I don't know. It doesn't make much sense, but that would actually happen today. And I got off the phone with them, I don't know, 2 hours ago. So are you seeing that in your world, Richard, or are you just seeing it in the news?
Just in the news.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's very interesting. Very, very interesting.
Michael, I've got a question.
Yes, sir.
Given what you've just described, where people are having money taken out of their accounts, that was one of the safeguards that the QFS provides, isn't it? But doesn't it track every currency from every bank account around the world? And so that where the banks are stealing from people's accounts and then shutting down, my understanding was that the QFS has got all of that.
Yeah, so the QFS basically has every transaction for every individual happens real time, so near 5 seconds on average for the real systems. I'm not talking about Bitcoin, I'm not talking about Ethereum or other systems, but they'll be real time, no government, no banks, no fees. Some of them will charge fees, like some of them actually do. But those systems will actually be totally transparent, where every transaction will be public knowledge, and the balances Like if someone knows a public address from somebody else, they can basically pull in the history and balances real time. Now, what's unique inside the digital world is there's actually derived keys that happens for every single bank account, or every I shouldn't say bank account, but every single account. And it's not just the accounts, but every app, all the data, all the wallets, your health data, your search histories, any of your passwords and usernames, all of it uses derived keys. It's not only that, but maybe a business you create, maybe a child that you have, maybe a car that you register, a license plate that you get, all of them use derived keys that are all public. And so if it's public, but you obfuscate the individual behind it, that actually controls the 12 words that's linked to them physically, so the people can validate what it is, but you don't share the data. So what I'll do is I'll give you an example. So within this particular environment, this jurisdiction is actually Mexican environment. You can see here that the last name is not being shown. So this last name is not here. So this individual's identity may actually be here. Let me see if I can show you. Let's see if I go into a business. Boy, oh boy, I'm logged into profiles that I'm not even, let's see if I've got one in here. I'm going to log in. I'm going to log into Mexican environment. I think what it is I'm using a profile system that I usually, it's not my personal. Yeah, there's nothing there. But if you basically set up a business, it'll actually show publicly what those businesses are. Here, I'll log out and show you. Within this Mexican environment, you can see these are all the businesses that have actually been created. So you can kind of, if we dig into this particular one, you can see the details about it, the reputation, digital world identity, maybe some of the managers, the members, any assets. And if they were all here, it would actually show them in real time. Let's try and see if we can find one that actually has it. Let's see if this one has it here. Yeah, so there's a digital asset here, but it hasn't been spent. But you can see that it's been created. And then a member, you can see that there's a member here, but you don't know who the member is. So if you want to actually see who it is, you would actually scan and the same type of thing. So we're actually going to make a request to actually see who this particular person is. And so that's a full request, or you can request certain types of things. Let's say you want to just see a vehicle registration. So this is going to send a second request to this particular individual. We don't know who the individual is, but we can validate who they are, and they can verify and share whatever data that they want. You can also add other members or managers to different environments, and then you can verify the authenticity of those environments to see if they're actually real or not. So this is a cryptographic system. One of the things, and people are saying, I've had some people this last little while that said, why should we care? Why do you want to verify who people are? And it's not just people. When we look at these derived keys, it's much more than just people. It's everything associated with them. Maybe a website, maybe a login, maybe a wallet, maybe some health information. And the reason that this is important is what happens in the future when deep fakes actually become to a point where you can't actually verify. You don't discern between truth and error, so to speak. And that's where these derived keys are going to become very important. And it's a third-party data asset. So when we talk about these 12 words, in this case it's 24, these things are unique 12 words that are given to the individual and then linked to them from a biological standpoint. It may be a face scan, it may be a fingerprint, it may be a combination, but even if someone gets the 12 words, they can't do anything with it unless it's linked and restored. And then once that happens, all their data comes back, and then to transact within any kind of environment, they basically have to do that same type of scan again and then get a derived key. So I'll show you how a derived key actually pops out. Watch to the left, real time. See that? So this number is a derived key for creating, what was this? This is creating a business. So that derived key is unique to that particular business, and machine learning and artificial intelligence can't follow that through into the system. So what it does is it creates a public record of everything that's transparent, but the individual's identity is obfuscated or free, so to speak, or separated or private. And people say, well, I don't know that this is actually real because who accepts it? And nowadays, before we were like, well, we hope the world accepts it. But nowadays, it's actually legal in the state of Utah and in the state of Wyoming to have a decentralized autonomous organization that is created by an individual that is actually private. That is passed into law. It's not just in legislation. By the way, this last week, we've made massive advancements within legislation for the Kingdom of Hawaii. This is under the Nuclear Act, so to speak. I should probably start with something simple. I'll start with something very simple here instead of doing that. So these are kind of titles for monarchs. This is legislation for approving. So if there's ever, these are kind of the 3-year goals. And then if people actually want to go and get things approved, this is 10 steps to actually approve legislation in a decentralized digital ecosystem. This particular ecosystem is the Kingdom of Hawaii. This is actually the King of Hawaii, along with a bunch of other wonderful folks. And there's 2 different other ecosystems that are also looking to do the same thing within the same jurisdiction, but they're going about it in a little different way. And some of them are using the same back-end systems, but a different front end, which is a whole nother conversation. But this is legislation for permits, licensing, registration, as well as certificates. And it goes through and it defines things. It sets up, the details, who can issue them, what are they issued on, and it ties to this decentralized governance model in the digital world. And then it pushes through the approval process for such things that we're talking about. It also translates it into what needs to happen. So these are the steps. That's all in English. This is all in Hawaiian. So these are the steps. This is the legislation. And then they basically have 30 to 90 days to review as the different council members, which is a bi-weekly meeting, and then push it through. The next one for this particular region was a monetary system. So this is legislation for a monetary system that basically empowers the dollar, which is equal to $1 US or 1 USD. So that goes through the steps that are there. This is a big advancement. The other one is around alien laws. So this is who can actually reside, whether they're adopted in, whether the Kanaka Maoli bloodlines or not, what the difference is between Kanaka Maoli or a diplomatic member or a diplomatic citizen. And it goes through all of the details and the rights that are approved therein. Some of the other stuff ties to, this is a diplomatic, what is this? So this is for actual diplomats and how they actually can be involved and how it ties. Let's see what the next one is. This is around insurance. So how insurance works. When you actually deploy a monetary system and a banking system, really insurance is actually a very big, important part of that. So this goes through some of the details that are there. And then I can keep blabbing, but this is the banking legislation. This is the exchange legislation. And the exchange legislation, some of the stuff that we actually saw over on the other site. So for instance, and by the way, this pulls in Reg A offerings that authorizes them within this environment, following on the Jobs Act of the United States of America, and then also enables bonds to be issued within the Kingdom of Hawaii, where they can actually bond and raise funds to actually grow their own environment. There's a taxation side of it, which I think ties, let's see, this is, so that's the Exchange Act. There's actually 2 of those. And then this ties to nuclear stuff, which is a beautiful conversation, similar to the topics that are actually found within Aotearoa around nuclear weapons in the waters. This ties to the acapella. It's probably not appropriate for me to go through that, but the net is these different jurisdictions, for instance, like in the Hawaiian Kingdom, to actually approve a decentralized autonomous environment, there needs to be laws that are enacted for that to be real and viable. And so we're stepping through those within the digital world and digital countries that actually want to adopt these systems, helping them with different legislation. And Bruce, I'd love to share those docs with you because I think that you would really value parts and pieces of that. But I hope that answers questions, may raise more questions, but other thoughts or comments, or if I didn't answer the prior question, feel free to pop it back out. Well, I guess we'll start with we'll wrap up with a opening/closing prayer. And Bruce, since we asked you to do the opening one, or Susan, either one of you are comfortable or welcome to do it. I know, Susan, we asked you to do the closing, but we just kind of skipped over the first one. I was so excited to talk about some of the things that happened this last week. But if either of you want to offer us a closing prayer, we can adjourn unless there's other topics anyone wants to jump in on.
Sure, I can.
Thanks, Susan.
So, Heavenly Father, we are grateful for who you are and for all you do for us, especially with all your blessings during the season of your son's birth. May more people continue to wake up to the technology that works for us instead of those that work against us. And please keep all who are traveling during the next few weeks safe and let them enjoy this special time with family and friends. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much. We'll see you all next week and have a wonderful pre-holiday. We'll talk to you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, Michael.
Bye, Bruce.
Thank you.
Bye, Richard.